Virginia Ryan, but you can call me Jenny. And I am a member service rep at the AAA branch in Quincy, Mass. This is my assistant manager, Tracy Breathwaite, Ferdinand, and she is the assistant manager of our branch. And we're here to discuss with you the new changes, well, the current changes, with the license, the driving license, okay? Do you want to start, Tracy?
Sure. Anybody's ever heard the term real ID?
Yes.
Excellent. And anybody has a real ID? Even better. That is awesome. So the difference between the real ID and the standard license, which still a big chunk of people have, is that once the rule, we've extended it again until May of 2025. But once that rule eventually kicks in, your real ID will allow you to fly anywhere in the U.S. without having to have an active U.S. passport. If you have to enter into a federal building, you'd be able to use that as identification to have access to any federal building, okay? It's not mandatory like a lot of people think it is. Have a choice. However, like I said, if you don't have it, once the rule kicks in, and you want to take a trip to Florida, New York, somewhere down south, you'd have to have a passport if you choose not to do the standard license. There's no difference in cost. It costs the same as your standard license. It just requires a little bit more documentation. There's a checklist that the RV sent out. We've been talking about this since 2018, and Real ID came into play because of, anybody can tell me? Anybody know?
9/11.
9/11, and because of the Patriots Act. So that's why this has been implemented. So once we implemented it, the RV sent out a checklist with the requirements of what is needed to upgrade your standard license to a Real ID or Real ID driver's license. So we're going to talk a little bit about the documents you can share with your friends, share at home, family, the friends here at the Kennedy Center, and, be able to help others. We understand that it can be a little overwhelming, and we're going to try to answer your questions as best as we can today. Okay? Jenny, want to talk a little bit about the checklist?
Absolutely. So we get the checklist from the Registry of Motor Vehicles, okay? And this is our Bible. This is what we go by when somebody comes in to renew their license. Now, you've heard of that game called telephone. With the game telephone, things change as you talk to different people about, oh, I had to do this, I had to do that, when it comes to renewing your license. Go by this. This is our Bible, and this tells you exactly what you need to have with you when you come in to renew your license, either with us at the AAA branch or the Registry of Motor Vehicles. So the first thing that we're going to cover is proof of lawful presence. That means proof of who you are. Now, you can use a passport as long as the passport is valid. It's still, it hasn't expired. Or you can use a birth certificate. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat with the birth certificate. A lot of birth certificates used to come in these little 3x5 cards with the seal on it. If you want to get the Real ID license, we cannot accept that. You have to get an 8.5, the long form, okay? But if you don't need the Real ID license and all you have is a 3x5 birth certificate, you can use that for the standard. And it has to have the seal on it. It cannot be a copy. We cannot accept any copies of anything to do with proof of lawful presence, not the passport, not the birth certificate. It has to have an official seal. And it cannot come from the church or the hospital. Not necessarily with the church, but the hospital sometimes will issue a birth certificate, but we also cannot accept that. It has to come from the municipality, town, or city that you were born in. And if you were born in Boston, there's a great building where you can get both your birth certificate and your marriage certificate. It's called the Department of Vital Statistics, and it's in Dorchester. It's right past BC High on 150 Mount Vernon Street. It's called the Department of Vital Statistics. They have the marriage certificates, the birth certificates, and death certificates for anybody that was born in Massachusetts. So, getting back to proof of who you are, again, that would be a valid passport or a birth certificate, as long as it has the seal on it. And if you want to get the real ID license, you want to make sure you have the long one. And that's when you can go to the Department of Vital
So
Statistics.
once you have a real ID, you don't need that.
No,
Next time.
once you transition over to the real ID license, you don't need to bring in any more of those documents.
I got a question.
Sure.
I got it from Ireland, birth certificate. Would that be okay?
No, we cannot accept it. It has to be a valid US birth certificate. So you naturalized to the you are a United States citizen, right?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a certificate of naturalization?
Yes, I do.
As long
But
as
it was one sent. One was lost, so the original was lost, but they gave me another one.
as long
It's
as,
sent, from the, Boston there.
yeah, so if it's the, if it has the certificate seal on it, you should be fine.
Sent, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it has the stamp on it.
Yeah, so you should be fine. And again, without actually looking at the document, we'd have to double check. But if it does have the seal on it, most of the time, it would be accepted, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Certificate of naturalization, certificate of citizenship, if you have an employment authorization card, also,
And social
that's,
security.
well, that's a different subject.
Yeah.
We're talking now about just proof of who you are.
Yeah.
So again, with the proof of who you are, it's a passport, it's a birth certificate with the seal on it, or certificate of naturalization, or employment authorization card, or
Permanent resident card.
permanent resident card, any one of those that proves who you are. And it always has to be valid. So if you have an expired permanent resident card, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. You'd have to come to the AAA office just to see whether or not it will validate. Because when you do come in and you do get your renewal process, it goes through this whole system where it has to validate with the Homeland Security database. So sometimes if there's a problem, we provide you with a case number. And it usually goes pretty well. It does take a little while. There sometimes seems to be a backup, but that's normal in today's world. So I've covered the birth certificate for proof of lawful presence, passport, etc. Are there any other questions with regards to that item?
I was just,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was just wondering, did you say in 2025, if you still had a regular license, if we are going to any place, even in the United States, we need our passport?
If you don't, yes, if you don't have the real ID, that's correct.
Yes.
So real ID only has to do with domestic travel. It has absolutely nothing to do with international travel. International travel will still require you to have a valid US passport. Okay?
You had a question down there?
Yes, the immigrants coming in now, for this, very sad circumstances, do they have to go through some of this
Yes, they have.
together?
Anybody who wants to renew their license or to drive needs to provide the same documentation. Same documentation.
That's not well known.
Well, well, it's not well known only if you're not an immigrant. Okay.
They passed the law about having illegal immigrants getting their license.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, I want to know how they get, explaining what you just did, they're not here from this country, I want to know how they get their license. Never mind EBT cards, but I want to know how they get their license. If you have to go through all of that, and obviously they do not have that, so how are they getting licensed?
So the law has been passed, but it's not implemented yet. That's going to go into effect July of 2023. So the requirements for that right now has not been wrote out. And although they're undocumented, they came through the border somehow. So they've had to have at some point in time a foreign passport of some sort to come in, right?
US passport.
No, but a passport from their country, right? So a lot of times undocumented immigrants come in with a visa and then do not go back, right? So they overstay. So at some point in time, they still had a foreign passport in order to come into the US. So we're not really sure the minute details on what they're gonna be required to have, but right now, the law, although the law is passed, does not go into effect until July of 2023. Okay, so I imagine that, in the next couple months or so, the RMV and Department of Homeland and Security will roll out the expectations and the requirements for those undocumented immigrants, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a quick question. My friend doesn't drive and she needs like a real ID. Does she have to go through all this, does she still need all the paperwork?
If she already has an existing, just an ID, then she.
Well, if she had a driver's license that expired, she hasn't driven in a few
Okay,
years.
so if she wants to get an ID and it's brand new, she does have to make an appointment with the registry.
Okay, she still needs all that?
Yes, she'll have to bring the documents,
Yeah,
yes.
she doesn't drive.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right.
Do you have to go to the registry to do this, or can it be done through AAA?
It can be done through AAA.
If you're not-
If you're a AAA member,
I am.
you can make an appointment. All registry transactions do require an appointment. And come in with your documentation. If you're not sure, you can always give us a call, and we can always call you back, or you can come in and visit us. And we can go over the documentation that you need to bring
So
with
what
you.
you're saying is that all I need is a valid passport?
For the standard license, yes, not for the real ID license. For the real ID license, as Tracy had reiterated, you need more than just a passport or a birth certificate, or an employment authorization card, or a foreign visa, so forth and so on. So, with that, going forward, now we've talked about proof of lawful presence and birth certificates and passports, just for the standard license. If you're not going to be flying at all, you don't need the real ID license. But if you do need it, you're going to need additional documentation besides your birth certificate and/or passport, etc. One of which is a marriage certificate. If you are married and your birth certificate has your maiden name on the birth certificate, we need to be able to connect the dots between your maiden name and your married name. That's why we need the marriage certificate. And if you've been married 10 times, we need 10 marriage certificates. I kid you not. We need to be able to connect the dots. Now, if you were married and you did get divorced, and you executed what's called a legal name change, we need that document also. Again, we have to be able to connect the dots. Your maiden name is Jones, your married name is McFadden, and then you go back to Jones. We need that documentation. We need to be able to connect the dots. That's what this is all about. And the next item, Tracy?
All right, we're going to talk about proof of social security number. So there's a few documents you can submit. Unfortunately, we do not take laminated documents. So many people laminated your social security card
Birth certificate.
and birth certificates. 20, 30, 40 years ago, we felt like that was the right thing to do, right? Fast forward, now they tell us that that is not the right thing to do. That's considered tampering with the federal document. Tell you why. Your social security card has some special threads in it that we're able to authenticate and validate if it's real or not, right? And so putting plastic or covering on it stops the ability to validate it. And so that's why they don't take validated documents, right? So if your social security card is laminated, you have other options. If you have a W-2, 10 years, 15 years, it doesn't matter, as long as it has your first, last name, and the entire 9 digits of your social security number. Even if you're retired, you can still submit that document. Now, if you're retired and receiving social security benefits, you get a 1099 at the end of the year. You can submit that document. Again, It must have your first, last name, and the entire 9 digits of your social security number. As long as the name on that document matches the name you're going to submit with your, let's say, passport or your marriage, birth certificate and marriage certificate, you can use that document as proof of social security number. Anybody have questions about that? Pretty clear cut, right? And, go ahead.
Just a question about things like senior or junior, or the third or the fourth. If you wanted to drop one of those or add one of those, some whatever, does that require some sort of formal document?
It will. So let's say your birth certificate has you as Michael Smith Jr., and you come to get a real ID license. That is your proof of lawful presence document. That's exactly what's going to appear on your license going forward, because that's a part of your name, right? If you want to now drop that, probably have to go to probate court and do a name change to take it off, especially if it has on your birth certificate, your social security card, all of that has junior or the third or senior on it, then you'd have to remove it if you no longer want to do it. If you want to add it, it's the same thing. You'd have to go to probate court and do a name change and then come and submit that name change document. Anybody else have questions about the social security?
A lot of cases.
Just not a question, but a statement. It is fairly easy today to ask Social Security for a duplicate card
Yes.
and not laminated.
That is very, you're accurate, that's 100% true. And then you now have the ability to request a social security card online. It will though ask you to create an account, and it will show you, like, if you're not retired or you are retired, it will give you a breakdown of what your social security benefits are. Once you create that account, then you can now request a new social security card. It takes about 7 to 10 business days to come to you. But you just want to make sure, if you're going to try to do it online, you want to make sure it's the right website. If it's charging you, if there's a cost to it, absolutely not. The Social Security Administration office will not charge you for a social security card. So if they're putting a dollar amount to it, you're definitely on the wrong website.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
The .gov one.
Yes.
SSA.gov.
.gov, that's correct. All right, moving on to proofs of residence.
Sure, okay. All right, so thank you, Tracy. So as we initially discussed, our member service reps at the AAA branch in Quincy, all branches, use this checklist as our Bible. I discussed proof of lawful presence, Tracy, proof of social security number. Now, sometimes if you were of a certain age, when you were 10 years old, you received your social security card in the mail. It was great, you know? There were two portions of it, a lower portion and an upper portion. We've seen some members come in with the lower portion. That is not acceptable. We cannot accept that. It has to be the upper portion where there's usually a very faint seal on the upper portion, okay? Just wanted to go over that because that has been sometimes a little bit of an issue. You're coming in and we can't do your real ID license because your social security card is not the right portion of what you receive from the federal government. Now we come to the last portion. That is 2 proofs of residency. And we have a whole checklist of what you can bring with you that we can accept for proof of residency. The first item is your license. That does have your home address on it. And if it's still valid, we can accept it. And even if the address isn't correct, what we do is on the other side of your license, there is a little spot where it says change of address, please put in permanent ink. Okay, you can put your new address on the back side of your license and we can still use it, as long as it's still valid, okay? Or if you don't have a valid license, you can use your registration as long as it's current. You can use a letter from the registry as long as it is dated within 60 days. It has to have the actual date on the upper right-hand corner or left-hand corner, and it has to be within 60 days. There are other documents that you can provide as proof of residency. You can provide a utility statement that's dated within 60 days in your name. Now, some people might just do a screenshot of the bill and print that out. We can't accept that. We have to actually see the full bill, top and bottom. And it has to be dated within 60 days. It can have two names on it. You could have your spouse's name. You could have your daughter's or your son's name on it. As long as it has your name on it, your current address, and it's dated within 60 days, we can accept it. We can also accept a valid firearms card. We can accept a, sometimes I still have to look at this cheat sheet, so just bear with me for a moment. A jury duty summons that you may have received recently, as long as it's dated within 60 days, and again, it has your current address on it. You can use the excise tax for the current year. I'm sure everybody's received the 2022 excise tax from the city of Quincy. They don't forget that. You can use that, or you can use your property tax. That's another bill that we always receive from the city of Quincy. You can use that also too as proof of residency. We also have a bank statement that you can bring, as long as it has your name on it. Again, you can have two names on it, but as long as you have your name on it, we can accept it. And it's dated within 60 days. And it has to be the actual bank statement. It cannot be a screenshot, it cannot be a copy, okay? Somebody had a question?
Just in the fact the city of Quincy has changed their mailing for the tax bills, so no longer do they have two lines. So I know the year we got our real IDs, it used to have both our names on the tax bills. Now it has Glenn's name at your on there, so my name's no longer on it, so you have to be careful with your tax.
Oh, okay, all right. Another address that we cannot, or name that we cannot accept is trustee, in trust of, okay, or in care of. We can't accept that. It has to have, and I've seen some of those name changes on the property tax. As long as it has the last name, and sometimes they'll have the two spouses' names there, we can accept that.
Yeah, ours was his name was on the top, my name was on the second line.
Okay,
So there's no more second line.
okay, but that's okay as long as it has both names on it and you're the one getting the real ID, we can accept that.
Yeah, but his name was on it, mine disappeared.
Oh, well, that's
So I had it the year before, which had both of them on.
okay. All right, so a credit card statement. So there's a whole list here of everything that you need to know about what you can provide for proof of residency. Again, 2 forms, all right? Bank statement, pension statement for a proof of residency. You can also use that. So if you want, we have some of these checklists here before you leave. You can take them with you. And if you have any questions at all, you can always give us a call and come and visit us at the AAA branch in Quincy, Mass. We'd love to see you. Does anybody have any questions so far?
We already covered the foreign birth certificate. What if there are documents in a foreign country where you were born with a change of name or whatever? Do you have to get a fee for those?
Well, what I know from renewing a license to someone with a foreign passport, there's specific requirements of what they have to provide. They have to provide their foreign passport, they have to provide their visa, they have to provide proof of their social security number. If they don't have a social security number, we can't do it. They have to go to the registry. Also, too, they have to have additional documentation required for those who are living here with foreign passports. Now, if they're undocumented and they don't have any documents, we cannot help them. We cannot do it. Even if you had mentioned if they do a name change, still they have to provide the initial documentation as everyone else would provide to renew their license.
And if this name change is a current document, do they have to have what's called an apostille, a notarization from the country?
So they don't take notarized documents. It would have to come from like a court. And so if you have a foreign name change, that should have translated once you got American citizenship. So that name change should have followed in that process. If it didn't follow in that process, now you have to go to an American court to do it. It wouldn't work, yeah.
So it wouldn't be enough to have even a formally executed apostille at the embassy of the country?
No, yeah.
Okay, so we have reviewed proof of who you are, proof of social security number, proof of residency. One thing I just want to go over with you is if you have any grandkids that are getting their permit, we do have a program through AAA where you can add, if the child is living with you, you can add them to your AAA membership. And we call it the Free Teen Program. And they will be added free of charge either till the renewal date or a year, whichever comes first. And you can make an appointment for them to get their permit application through AAA. Now, a lot of parents have come in and some grandparents have come in and they've had a little bit of a problem because teenagers don't have a lot of documentation. We know that. But there are some documents that are put on this wonderful checklist that will give you some information on what we can accept. We can accept a school transcript from the high school where they're attending. We can accept a tuition bill for the current year if they're in college, okay? We can accept a certified school record for the current year. Some high schoolers are working, we can accept a pay stub or a W-2. If they have a bank account, we can get a bank statement from the bank that they have their account with, and we can accept that. So it gives you the whole list. One item I do want to clarify. It states here, official letter from the school. We cannot accept that. There were some problems with it, so the registry has determined that it's not acceptable. We're waiting for them to update the form, so until they do, you're just going to have to disregard that document that's reflected in the checklist.
Can I have a question on bank statements? In the fact that most of them are online these days, and even if you were to print them off, is that acceptable?
If you print them off, it is acceptable. Yeah, yeah. Everybody, a lot of people do their banking online, but you still have access to your account online, and if you have access to a printer, you can print it off. Okay? So do we have any questions? Everything clear? Clear as mud?
We're going to transition a little bit now. Anybody has a little heart on their license? Excellent. Excellent. So, my friend Terry is going to come and talk to you a little bit.
I think Matt's gonna.
Oh, Matt's gonna talk to you. I want you to come because you're our friend.
Yes.
And Terry comes to the AAA office once a month. Really sweet lady. And she is a product of an organ donor.
Yes, I
Right.
received a kidney transplant in 2010, and I'm very grateful for the last 12 years that I've had wonderful health, well, because of my donor and his family. I wouldn't be here without my kidney transplant, so it's my way of giving back, and so I volunteer for New England Donor Services, just spreading awareness about registering as an organ donor. Defer to
And
Matt.
Matt's gonna
Sure, yeah,
talk
of
to you a
course.
little bit.
So first and foremost, thanks to the AAA. They do a wonderful job of community service and accessing general public here. They, like we, work directly with the RMV, Registry of Motor Vehicles, the state of Massachusetts, and in fact, our role is to work with all 6 New England states in this region as the federally designated organ procurement organization. Our job each and every day is to help save lives through organ transplantation. And the venue to do that is in all 50 states, presented when you get your driver's license, ID, or real ID. Would you like to register as an organ and tissue donor? We thank the AAA for doing such a wonderful job of doing so much, educating the general public, but also reminding them that is a question presented. It's a legally required question presented on a state document. We work with AAA and the RMV/DMV/BMV in all 50 states because we are the only public health question presented on a document that's seen by the vast majority of people. And this question is to save lives, period. It is not to wait for you to die. Sadly, people do die, and if there's a small opportunity for you to help save a life, that part on your license means that you would be willing to do that. You are more likely to need a transplant than to become an organ donor. So I want people to realize that there's actually no health ramifications at all. Organ donation only happens, sadly, after you passed away. And one of our efforts is to reach out to all populations, young populations, old populations, middle-aged populations, teenagers, etc., reminding them that answering that question is of great importance. The AAA and the RMV, this is a poster developed by the Department of Public Health here in Massachusetts, is here to educate people to do that. I do want to indicate that you can register at any age, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. There could be an opportunity to help save a life. And again, you're more likely to need a transplant than become an organ donor. Only 2% of all deaths happen in the manner where one become an organ donor. We live here in Massachusetts, which honestly is one of the best medical areas in the entire world. There's some fantastic things being done. We've worked very closely with the governor and the mayor of here in Quincy, the mayor in Braintree, to help educate people about that and to share individual stories like Teresa, who is here today because of the wonderful gift, the gift of life. But I couldn't thank the AAA staff anymore. The RMV does a great job. The AAA, you come in and often you walk in and there's a poster of Hawaii and there's smiling faces and there's very short lines. They do a wonderful job. We work with Dave Hempy and your staff in all branches. Thank you so much for what you do each and every day. We're pleased to be partners with you guys. We have giveaways, happy to answer any questions, but thanks so much for having us as part of your presentation.
You're welcome. I'd like to bring up one item, okay? And that is, when you come into AAA, you fill out a form, and I don't seem to have a form on me right now. Hold on for a minute. All right, so on that form, on the second page, what they ask you is, are you a citizen of the United States? Yes. Are you a resident of Massachusetts? Yes. And then below, there's a little statement saying, I do not, there it is. It states, do not use my information for voter registration. That's a confusing question. Some members that come in, they'll check that off, but what that does is it voids your current voter registration status. You don't want that to happen. So when you do come in and you fill out the form, whether or not it's online or in our branch, do not check off that box. One thing that you have to remember is this is also used for new drivers. So that question in there, or that statement in there, is for new drivers. We try to catch it as much as we can in the branch when somebody comes in to renew and they have that little box checked off, but sometimes we do miss it. I do apologize for that. So just make sure when you do fill out the form, don't check that off, unless you really don't want to vote. Or you just, want to register later on, okay? All right, so does anybody have any final questions with regards to?
I did have a question. I work on the elections, and we have a lot of people coming in saying they've registered with the RMV, and we actually have no record of that. Is that?
That could be part of the problem.
That could be part of the problem?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And what we do advise our members, once we've completed the transaction, if we do happen to see it says, are you registered to vote, and it says no, we explain to them why, and we tell them what to do to re-register. All you have to do is go online to re-register to vote.
So that's a possible explanation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's just, it's a very ambiguous question. And it's really for new drivers, not for those who are already driving and who are already registered to vote. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I also wanted to share with you that AAA does a whole lot more than R&V. Although that's what we're known for right now. Roadside assistance is top of the line, right? And then we also do insurance. We have travel if you want to plan a trip. Those are some things we do. You want to refinance your car, refinance your house. Those are things that you can come as a AAA member and have it done. It's a multi-service organization. And if you ever need help with making appointments, the appointments are made online, but although we're busy, if you have trouble making the appointments online, you can feel free to, reach out to us. We'll try to help you the best we can. The appointments are, just so you know, 2 weeks out. So you want to give yourself at least 2 weeks before your license is expired or expiring to get an appointment, okay?
Before, when you renew the license, you go online, you don't have to go, you do it online and then they can do that, but now you can't do that anymore?
So you can sometimes. So if you try to renew your license online and it's not allowing you, a couple things, or 3 things, a few things. One, you might need a new photo. Second, it might require you to have a new vision test, right? So if you're trying to renew it and it doesn't let you do it, those could be a couple of the reasons. Also, if you forgot to pay your excise tax or you forgot to pay a parking ticket, those are some things that will not allow you to renew online, okay? If you can't renew online, then you just, either call us, make an appointment to come in, and we can help you, all right?
Is there an age limit as far as renewing your license, as far as like an eye test? After like, say, 80, that you have to,
As long as you can pass the vision test.
Okay, so
It's
it's
the
not...
best, the ice.
Yes, as long as
So
you,
that I know, but I mean, like in Florida, after a certain age, you cannot renew your license online.
after, 75, I think, Ginny? 75 here in Massachusetts, you can't renew it online.
You have to
You have-
come in.
Yeah, you have to go into a service center.
You have to come in and you
Yeah.
have to take the eye
Eye
test.
test, yeah. Okay, yeah. Anybody else have questions? We are here, and like I say, when we're not here, we're at 650 Adams. And you can call us, I have cards, we can, if you have any questions. And if you're, anybody here not a AAA member? Everybody AAA members? Excellent.
We thank you for your.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for spreading the word.
loyalty.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, please, wonderful. Thanks for
Thanks,
asking us.
Terry. Thank you, guys,
Great
so much.
presentation. Yeah.